Hi, it's Katrina! From courageous canines to daring dolphins, here are 10 cases of animals rescuing other animals. Number 10. Labrador and baby bunnies. A Labrador from San Francisco named Koa went out on her daily search for lizards. Usually she brings home lizard tails, but one morning in 2011, she brought home a pair of baby rabbits, or kits, from the wild. Surprisingly, these little critters weren't dead. Koa had found them on a dirt pile while out looking for her main source of entertainment. Koa started taking care of them as if they were her own puppies, along with some help from her human friends. Seeing as she had never had puppies, their relationship is very unique. This moving story of animal adoption happened during Easter time, making it even more special. It's an unusual combo for sure, but apparently Koa took to the role of Easter bunny / mom like a duck to water. Or should that be like a Labrador to a rabbit warren? Either way, if it wasn't for this good doggie's nurturing nature, these poor rabbits probably wouldn't have ended up so well. Good thing they weren't lizards. Number 9. Rex and Roo. 10 years ago on Australia's south coast, Leonie Allan was taking her dog, Rex, for a walk. They made a gruesome discovery when they passed a dead kangaroo, which looked like it had been struck by a car. According to the owner, it is sadly a common occurrence, so she just wanted to keep walking by. But Rex seemed concerned and started pointing. She ignored him and took him home, but later that day, Rex was still pointing and then went off. Thinking that he had found a snake, Mrs. Allan was pretty worried, but when he finally came back, he brought a joey and dropped it at her feet. Rex could sense the presence of the baby in the pouch and pulled out the 4-month-old Roo. The pair developed an instant bond, and they would cuddle and play together. The joey was named Rex Jr. and was raised by a wildlife sanctuary until he was 18 months old, and then he was released back into the wild. Number 8. Tabby Cat and the Bobcats. When an abandoned house was demolished in South Carolina, workers found a litter of bobcats underneath the home. With their home in rubble, they needed a place to stay, and they were taken in by Carolina Wildlife Care. Unfortunately, Carolina Wildlife Care didn't have a big cat able to look after them, but they did have one of the smaller variety. Enter gray tabby cat Zoe. Zoe had her own kittens, but was happy to take on the bobcats as well. Since they were so young, Zoe took care of them for about 5 weeks, because after that, the 3 baby bobcats would just get too big. Their claws and teeth would get bigger and sharper and might become a danger to Zoe and her kittens. After that, the goal was for them to have as little contact with humans as possible so they could be returned to the wild. And now for number 7. But first, do you have any nice animal stories to share with us? Let us all know in the comments below. And if you are new here, welcome, and be sure to subscribe before you go. Number 7. Dachshund and the Lion. In Oklahoma at the GW Exotic Animal Park, you can witness a very unlikely friendship between a lion and a dachshund. The size difference between them is something to behold. Bone Digger, a male lion, weighs 500 pounds. Milo the dachshund met Bone Digger when he was just a cub. Milo belongs to double amputee zookeeper John Rake, who hand-reared the lion as a baby. Bone Digger has a bone disease that has left him mildly crippled, but has a strong bond with John and his wife and sons, who also help take care of him. While Bone Digger can't be as active as other big cats, thankfully Milo is there to keep him company. Milo and 2 other dogs sensed that the lion was disabled and took on a protective and comforting role. John himself feels a very strong connection to the lion, as he lost both of his legs during a bungee jumping accident. By all accounts, John and the lion shouldn't be alive, but now they support each other, and John says the animals have helped him recover. Not only do Bone Digger and Milo snuggle up together and enjoy a nice meal of raw meat, but Milo also mimics Bone Digger when he's communicating with other lions. This group are pals for life, and it is hard to say who really rescued who. Number 6. Woodpecker and the Weasel. We're kind of spoiled now with high-definition nature programs capturing footage of predators taking down a meal in gruesome slow-mo. However, just when you think you've seen it all, an amateur snapper captures some extraordinary shots. The unlikely setting of an East London park was where the photographer saw a woodpecker taking off into the air, but this was no ordinary ascent. On its back and apparently hitching a ride was a weasel. If this sounds implausible, then prepare to be amazed by the evidence. Amateur photographer Martin LeMay took this picture in 2015. Martin told BBC News that he was visiting Hornchurch Country Park on a Monday afternoon, and he may have just saved the bird's life. While many people thought this was some kind of rescue, maybe the weasel needed a ride and the bird was helping out his fellow friend. If this were a Disney movie, maybe. But what appears to have happened is that the weasel took a chance on snagging a supersized meal by jumping on the bird. Woody was having none of it, so off they went on an unscheduled flight. Martin said they might have distracted the weasel, and the woodpecker landed soon after while the weasel ran off into the grass. So while I know this isn't strictly a case of an animal rescuing another animal, this picture is amazing, and it does almost look like the bird is giving this little weasel a ride. But actually, it was just nature taking its course, and Martin got an amazing shot. And in the end, maybe it was Martin who saved the woodpecker. Number 5. Dog rescues pandas. In 2009, a red panda at a zoo in northern China unexpectedly gave birth to 2 cubs. It was a surprise to the staff as she hid her baby bump pretty well, not to mention the surprise of the visitors to the zoo who were watching at the time. Maybe it was the stress or the crowd of people at the Taiwan Zoo, but the mother abandoned them immediately after. After they got over their shock, zoo employees looked immediately for a foster mother. Their replacement mother was a little white dog. She was so devoted to the red panda cubs that she reportedly favored them over her own puppy. The unlikely surrogate mother is a much better option than bottle feeding, and now the little pandas have a fighting chance. Number 4. The Dolphin and the Whales. When 2 whales became stranded on a beach in New Zealand in 2008, there was a desperate effort to save them. It is still sometimes a mystery as to why these magnificent creatures sometimes stray off course and wind up getting beached. Nearby humans tried but failed to rescue the pygmy sperm whales, so it was down to another animal of the sea to swim in and save the day. Moko the dolphin was quick to communicate with the whales and seemed to reassure them with his own special brand of soothing talk. Conservation officer Malcolm Smith told the BBC that he and his companions had been working for a couple of hours, but the whales kept beaching themselves. Mr. Smith said that he doesn't speak whale or dolphin, but the whales calmed down once they heard Moko and were able to follow him along the beach and out to sea. Experts are extremely surprised at how these species were able to communicate and what made the dolphin come out to help. The whales have luckily not been seen since, but Moko the dolphin has been back to play with swimmers. Mr. Smith went out and gave him a pat on the head as a thank you. Number 3. Dog and kitty. Dogs and cats are usually busy hating each other, but in some cases they can be friends and even go so far as to look out for each other, as this story proves. In 2013, a Florida dog named Jack, who belonged to a soldier, was staying at his human grandma's house while the soldier was away in Afghanistan. Sheree Lewis had a cat appropriately called Kitty, and you'd think that this would be a recipe for disaster, but no! Thankfully, the 2 animals hit it off, snuggling and sleeping together. However, the relationship nearly came to a premature end when 2 coyotes set their sights on Kitty and tried to drag her away. They were shaking her pretty hard, but Jack ran to the rescue, making the coyotes drop her, rescuing Kitty. Poor Kitty suffered some brain swelling and a broken tooth, but overall she was lucky to be alive, and she wouldn't be around at all were it not for her heroic canine companion. Number 2. Cat rescues dog. Sometimes cats can be heroes too. In Ohio in 2013, a tabby cat named Sammy went to defend the dog who people assumed was her enemy. The injured party, Izzy, enjoyed chasing Sammy around the neighborhood. So when Sammy saw Izzy was in trouble with another dog, you'd think that he'd just sit back and laugh. Instead, he raced to help his canine buddy. Sammy ran at the attacker and puffed himself up, making himself look big. He spooked the bigger dog, who released its hold on little Izzy. Unfortunately, it then made straight for Sammy instead. But Sammy had more than enough experience getting away from dogs and promptly ran up a tree. Izzy was all right after that close encounter of the toothsome kind and has Sammy to thank for that furry intervention. Hopefully the chasing is over and they can break bread together, or at least a rat or something. Number 1. Hippo to the rescue. It takes a special type of animal to rescue another animal. However, an animal that rescues 2 of them in one sitting is definitely a hero. Would it surprise you to learn that the savior in this case was a hippo? They do more than just hanging out in the river all day intimidating everyone. Turns out they keep an eye out for anything that gets caught up in the powerful flow of the river, in this case the Mara in Tanzania. Wildebeest and zebras migrate that way in large numbers as part of their epic journey between the Masai Mara and the southern Serengeti. It takes a tough creature to cross that raging river, and getting caught off balance and carried to a watery grave is a tragic fact of life. Reportedly, one hippo wasn't having it. So when a wildebeest calf was swept away, the big fellow was right on it, pushing the baby onto the bank, and what's more, giving it a playful nip to wake it up a bit after the ordeal. Then, a zebra also fell into the river, practically drowning, and the hippo had to take the plunge and rescue his stripy friend. Some think the hippo was more protecting its territory than performing an act of charity, but if that's true, it was very gentle about it. If it had truly been mad or annoyed, it would have just bitten them in half. What do you think? Hippo rescuer or river gatekeeper just doing its job? I prefer to think of it as a daring example of animal rescue. Thanks for watching! Which story did you like the most? Do you have any animal rescue stories? Let us know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe and I'll see you soon. Bye!